Pop culture usually frames the American frontier as a chaotic wasteland where the fastest draw made the rules, and outlaws like Billy the Kid defined the landscape. In the late 19th century, a bipartisan syndicate of lawyers and politicians, known as the Santa Fe Ring, seized control of New Mexico's legal and economic future. This group captured the entire administrative apparatus of the territory. By manipulating unclear titles and rigged courts, they executed a systemic heist of millions of acres of land. To keep federal investigators at bay, the Ring spent decades stalling New Mexico's statehood. Territorial status allowed them to operate with minimal federal oversight, maximizing their access to patronage money. The era's famous gunfights were the final, violent stage of this corporate strategy, a shadow government using force to eliminate obstacles the law couldn't remove. Following the Mexican-American War, the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo guaranteed the U.S. would respect established Spanish and Mexican land grants. However, proving ownership required dense legal work and multi-year court battles that most original heirs simply could not afford. Lawyers Thomas Catron and Stephen Elkins moved to Santa Fe and recognized that the confusion surrounding these land titles was a massive, exploitable asset. They embedded themselves in the territory's infrastructure, managing the First National Bank of Santa Fe while simultaneously holding high-ranking roles as U.S. attorneys and the Attorney General. By stacking the territorial legislature and courts with their business associates, they ensured that legal challenges to their interests were dead on arrival. Catron eventually claimed he could name every judge in the territory. This systemic infiltration transformed the legal system from a protector of property rights into a mechanism for their redistribution. The Ring's method began by purchasing a fractional land interest. Then, Allied surveyors redrew property lines to artificially expand these small claims. The Maxwell Land Grant illustrates this math. An original 97,000-acre tract was resurveyed into 1.7 million acres. This engineering allowed Thomas Catron to accumulate over 2 million acres, making him the largest private landowner in United States history at the time. These acquisitions weren't robberies in the traditional sense. They were wealth transfers legally engineered within a compromised system. Managing 1 million acres required more than just paper titles. Hispanic settlers, Native American communities, and independent ranchers often refused to vacate lands they had occupied for generations. When legal evictions stalled, the Ring's associates turned to physical force. This escalation included targeted assassinations, most notably the murder of Reverend Franklin J. Tolby, a vocal critic of the syndicate's land grabs. The transition from legal maneuvering to violence sparked regional range wars, like the Colfax County War and the Lincoln County War of 1878. These legendary conflicts operated as the final stage of a monopoly strategy, the physical removal of its economic rivals. Resistance eventually moved from the courtroom to the field. Local Hispanic organizers, known as Las Godas Blancas, began severing fences and destroying the infrastructure the Ring used to enclose previously communal land. National pressure followed when federal investigator Frank W. Angel documented the volume of fraud and murders occurring under the territorial administration. These probes dismantled the Ring's overt control over the territory, as federal oversight made their specific brand of systemic corruption increasingly difficult to hide. The erosion of this syndicate's power paved the way for New Mexico to meet the federal administrative requirements for statehood in 1912. Statehood introduced a level of professional bureaucracy and public scrutiny that the Ring's informal interlocking power structure couldn't withstand. While the Ring's monopoly was eventually broken, Catron and Elkins leveraged their wealth into powerful federal seats, serving in Washington as U.S. senators and cabinet secretaries. Their legacy left a permanent economic imprint on the region, concentrating millions of acres of land into the hands of a few absentee owners for generations. It also fostered a deep generational distrust of government institutions that remains a defining feature of the local culture today. While outlaws dominate our movies, the West was actually conquered by men who understood that a well-placed signature was more powerful than any bullet.